Okay, it's your favourite billionaire philanthropist, Hyaku Shiki 96, and yes, I have returned back from my yachting trip across the Mediterranean. It was actually quite nice, and I had a lot of caviar. Oh sorry, that was just me waiting for you to laugh at my amazing joke. Okay, fine, maybe next time. Okay, so the topic for today that I would like to discuss is about the Switch 2 6 months later. Now, I really feel that there's a lot being said about the console and I wanted to get my thoughts in. So, let's go. Okay, so the first thing that I really want to mention is that as for the context to early launch periods, I feel that Switch 2 for me has been one of the best. Now, I don't feel like that's generally a shared opinion, and I will talk a little bit about why. Over the first few months of a launch period, I feel like what it really hinges on is the value that the system provides and the games themselves. So it's really kind of like a personal and subjective thing. Now for me, the games have just really hit quite well on the Switch 2. Mario Kart World has really been one of my favourite Mario Karts in a long time. I'm part of probably one of the minority factions who didn't really like Mario Kart 8 that much. Yes, I know, quite an unpopular opinion to say, but for me, I don't feel like the balance and the kind of like way that the karts handled and drifted, it just felt a little bit too cartoonish for me. I don't know the right word for it, but you kind of get what I'm going with here. However, Mario Kart World kind of felt like Mario Kart Wii, in which things were a little bit more weighty and realistic, and I enjoy that kind of feeling to the games themselves. So for me, straight out the get-go, the key launch title was fantastic. I like the knockout race, it's actually quite a lot of fun. I have totally, to be honest, never won one. I did come third once, and that was probably by luck, but it's still a lot of fun. I do feel like, again, there are some improvements that could be made to the open world aspect. It's kind of just a bit of a gimmick. And of course, I do hear people's complaints about kind of like the races too and some of the updates that Nintendo's done, but in general, I don't think we can argue that it's a well-polished and fantastic Mario Kart title. When we're thinking about launch lineups in general, like I said, it's just all about that subjective taste that you have. If the games resonate with you, you absolutely love it. Now, when it comes to comparing the Switch 2 and its main launch games, I kind of feel like it's definitely up there for me. I mean, if we're comparing it with the Switch 1, I mean, that had Breath of the Wild. It's not going to win against that. But I feel like general volumes of titles, it's definitely been there. We had like, I think something close to like 20 titles that came out in the UK. So we had quite a large number of titles launched for the Switch 2. And I do feel like for me it was quite exciting to see all of these games brought over to the system. One of the key kind of criticisms that people had at the time is that a lot of them were ports. And I do kind of understand that kind of criticism. If you've already played those games or had access to those games, or those games again don't interest you, linking back to that subjectivity element, then of course that can mean that whilst they have provided quite a good amount of games available at launch, they might not kind of hit the same. I kind of get that. However, for me, it was a great excuse to try out some fantastic games. I mean, for example, Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that I actually picked up and decided to play for the first time on Nintendo Switch 2. I'd never played it on any system before. The point was, it's one of my favourite games I've ever played. I haven't really decided where it ranks in terms of numerical, but I was addicted. I had a lot of time off on the summer. I was genuinely addicted, and it takes a lot for a game to pull me in that I'm playing it multiple hours every single day, almost without fail. It really felt like so engrossing, the world building was so rich. I was even reading all the notes, and you guys know, in order to really love a game, if you get pulled in so much, you're reading literally all the notes that you come across. On the other hand, if you'd already experienced Cyberpunk before, then again that might not really have the same oomph to it. However, there's one thing we can't get across when it comes to the games in general, and just an adjacent topic, and that's game key cards. So I don't own any game key cards, and that's really by choice. I do feel like eventually I will own a few, but I even passed up on Raido Remastered because of the game key cards. So here's what I think about it, right? For me, being a physical collector, longevity is one of the reasons why I actually buy physical. Now, I do feel like game key cards do provide you with something, and that's the ability to trade in and sell the games, right? that's cool. You have something on your shelf, that's great. I do believe that they still fulfill the novelty factors, maybe besides the ugly banner at the bottom, but at least it's clear. And that's the thing, it's clear. Like when we think about the games on the PlayStation and the Xbox that require internet downloads to work, it's only really been very recently they've started making that obvious. I mean, Does It Play exists because it wasn't obvious before. So I do at least appreciate Nintendo's upfrontness. However, what I don't appreciate is the prices of the game keycards. So I think it makes sense why they exist to a degree. Now, we did hear, of course, companies like Ubisoft comment on and say that it allows them to port these games that wouldn't really be possible to fit on a cartridge, that would either require faster running speeds or perhaps the file sizes wouldn't work. I think that's great if you think about it like that. I mean, being able to get bigger, more full-size games on there, I suppose that's an advantage and a good use case there. Of course, however, ultimately, I do feel like, again, maybe there are some ways that companies and developers can better optimize around the actual cartridges. I mean, Cyberpunk runs practically perfectly. I did hear that there was stutter issues, and there are, but like for me it was much less than what I heard online after looking it up. But the point that I'm trying to make is it's kind of a bittersweet thing. I kind of understand it, but I kind of don't. However, there is one point that I do want to put across. I'm sure Nintendo are listening to this, given, again, my financial status being a billionaire philanthropist. But please make the game cards cheaper. I feel like for me, the fact that you don't really own the game and you download it means that you get less value out of owning it. And so for me, a cheaper price point would really allow me to feel a bit more comfortable with the existence of game key cards. So, for example, having them at full launch price just kind of feels like a bit of a sting, really. If it was, let's say, for example, £15 cheaper, £10 cheaper, I would at least kind of understand and say, you know what, sure, maybe I don't own it, but at least I'll get some money back from it later, and at least I'm getting some saved cost passed down to me. Because ultimately that's what a lot of the choices are about, because there are a lot of games that could have fit on physical cartridges that aren't, and that's just about the cost element. I do feel like going forwards, I would be interested to see how Nintendo actually manage this game keycard situation. I'd like to kind of see it's kind of more slowly phased out and be more fringe cases, and when they do exist, to be better value. I kind of talked about the software library. I feel like the last thing I do want to mention is some more recent releases. I mean, for example, Hades 2. Hades 2 has been a fantastic game I've been really enjoying as well, and so I'm really glad that that exists. The thing that's interesting about Hades 2 is that there are some Nintendo Switch 2 editions, which is where it plays on the first console as a Switch 1 game and on the Switch 2 as a Switch 2 game. That's actually kind of a cool feature. I know some people have recognised it and talked about it, but for me, I kind of appreciate that, and I think that's a cool cross-gen feature. We've not really seen that before in the same way that we're seeing it now, so that's cool. So next thing I want to talk about is the actual system itself. So I feel like this is going to be a big sort of like dividing line really here. A lot of people are going to look at the similarities between the two systems and kind of perhaps fail to see what the benefits that are being offered by the Switch 2 are. For me, they managed to strike the right balance in making this feel a lot more premium than the first. So when I did get the two systems, I actually hadn't traded in my first one till afterwards, and I kind of like held them in succession. And what I did notice is that the Switch 2 feels a lot better, like a lot better. And for me, that was a problem I didn't know I had with the Switch 1. I mean, it felt fine using it, but really the premium feel of the console is a great thing. Okay, another thing I want to talk about is the screen. So there's been a lot of debate online about the screen. I never owned an OLED, I owned an original LCD model, and the upgrade is so substantial. It looks absolutely brilliant. I mean, the screen is bright, it's fluid, the colours are better. I mean, there's just, even the aspect ratio of the screen, the bezel size is better. I would prefer end-to-end, but again, I do understand that probably eventually when they release an OLED, they'll do that. I think I share on that presumption there. Iterations are kind of just an accepted thing at this point. I'm very happy with the screen is what I'm trying to say. The 120 Hz on the screen is great. Again, I feel like for an LCD panel, I'm quite pleased with it. if you do have an OLED and you've got a Switch 2, I'd love to hear your thoughts in comparison on how that screen stacks up. But again, for me, coming from the original LCD, it's a big upgrade. Okay, so the next thing really here is the mouse controls. So thankfully, the mouse controls are actually useful for me. I feel like a lot of people, they've kind of been hit or miss. Yeah, I have Civ 7, so it's been pretty good. I mean, that's the whole reason I bought Civ 7 on the Switch 2 in the first place, was the mouse controls. They're not perfect, but I think they're quite good overall. And I mean, for an interesting gimmick, it's a great idea. What I'm really hoping to see is a slew of really interesting tactics and kind of strategy PC ports come over. Wishful thinking, I know. But I mean, recently with Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition being ported to the PS5, I'd love to see that on the Nintendo Switch 2, so again I could use the mouse controls. Just kind of other games like that maybe, updates to previous Switch 1 games that allow me to use the mouse as controllers for it. I mean, for example, City Skylines, other kinds of games like that. Making the mouse controls really does improve the experience for me. So I really like that they added that feature. That's a hit or miss one, but I happen to be the case where that's actually a good thing. And then of course, the last thing I do want to add, and this is just a couple of my minor gripes and annoyances with the system. I don't like the Switch 1 controller, can't wait for the console. I really feel like if I was in Nintendo's position, I would have fixed that. I think that that's a small, again, quality of life feature that perhaps necessarily doesn't need to be there. Another thing is about the game chat feature. Now, I feel like that works for some people, but for somebody who primarily likes to play single player games and likes to play multiplayer games in person, I really feel like I'm not the best use case for game chat. Eventually, I'm sure I will use it. I mean, when of course, the new From Software game, The Dusk Bloods, launches next year, I'm sure I'll use it then. As things stand, I don't feel like that's been a worthwhile feature for me. So now we've covered the general feel and build of the console, the software library, and my experience, and of course we've had a look at a couple of different kinds of arguments. I think the main thing that I'd like to conclude in this video really is that for me, the Switch 2 is absolutely fantastic. If you want the Switch, but better, that's what the Switch 2 is, and it doesn't fail to disappoint in that regard. If you want something a bit different, I don't think you're going to get it here. So really, if you're fed up with the Switch, I'd pass on this one. If not, what I'd really wait for is the library to meet your needs. Like I said, currently at this point, I'm quite happy with it. The backwards compatibility is great, and I'm really enjoying my experience. So ultimately, for me, it just depends on the software library. That's what makes or breaks the console. It's got some good features, it's got some good gimmicks. How the games actually play, the quality of the software itself, and how it uses those features really determines, again, the worth of the console. So, will the Switch 2 be better than the Switch 1? Only time will tell. But one thing's certain for me, and that it's off to a good start. Okay, so what are your thoughts with the Switch 2? Make sure to comment below. I know there are some things, again, that I would have missed out here, so of course, if you would like to add any discussion points, please do so in the comments. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe. I'm not going on the yacht this time, but I am going on my private jet. I've decided to have a little fly over to Australia. Again, just typical billionaire philanthropist things. So yeah, I'll see you after that.